We now want to bring in retired Navy Vice Admiral Robert Murrett. He has been speaking with us throughout the day. He's the Deputy Director of the Syracuse University Institute for Security Policy and Law. And, we have been asking you a series of questions. Now we have some answers. Robert, the Coast Guard said it will continue to investigate what happened. They wouldn't give an answer as to what it means to try and recover what is left of the wreckage or of the 5 people who were lost there. But can you talk to us just about as technical as possible from what we have learned from these 5 pieces and the evident implosion or something that is consistent with a catastrophic implosion? What does this mean? How would you describe what happened?
Well, first, to begin, our thoughts go out to the families. And as Admiral Mauger said, we're mostly concerned about the loss this represents for the 5 individuals that were on the submersible. And after this, there'll be, in due time, probably recovery of as much of the debris field that they can find near the Titanic on the ocean floor with the remotely operated vehicles, the ROVs, which are already on scene and already found the debris field today. And again, falling back on let's have a tip of the hat for the explorers. I mean, the people that go out there and actually kind of, go into dangerous environments like this one. I'm sure there'll be a lot of lessons learned what happened to the Titan, but our thoughts now are with the families. And I thought the Coast Guard handled the events today very, very well. And the way that Admiral Mauger expressed his concerns at the press conference just recently are emblematic of a really good organization.
An agreement in all of those things, including offering our deepest condolences and knowing that that many of the 5 were adventurers and were explorers and were interested in taking on these risks. I want to talk now about the challenges ahead. As we heard from Rear Admiral Mauger, they're still working to put together that timeline. They have some answers, but they don't know if they're going to be able to recover and return any of these bodies to the families, if they'll be trying to even bring back the pieces of debris that these vehicles that are unmanned, that are remote operated vehicles that found this debris. Do we expect that they will try to lift up what remains of the Titan, or will they lay there? How likely is it that if these families would like to have their loved ones' bodies returned to them, that's even possible?
I wouldn't want to speculate on which items may be brought up from the ocean floor and which ones would not. I do think there'll be a lot of interest in forensic analysis of how this implosion took place. I think that will involve bringing up whatever parts are able to do, which is from an engineering standpoint, bringing up the pieces of the Titan submersible to the surface and doing analysis of something is fairly straightforward, as we have done with so many wrecks that we've had. And just, for the record, I should note that 2 of us are U.S. Navy nuclear submarines were lost at sea. Both, one off of New England, USS Thresher, the other one in the North Atlantic, USS Scorpion. And a lot of analysis done of those 2 as they found their way to the ocean floor. So, I mean, the technology is not difficult, but I think there'll be lively interest in just understanding what happened. As we always do, we try to learn from these tragic events, and that'll certainly take place.
And Robert, you've been talking about, lessons learned. There have been a lot of questions about OceanGate and around just, whether or not there had been enough testing. When we think of a regulatory framework, when we think about something as experimental and innovative as this, whether or not those passengers were aware of the risks, where do you see this going? Do you see other private companies that are as experimental being able to carry out an expedition like this one? What are some of those lessons that just come to mind at this point, of course, without knowing what that forensic investigation is going to give us?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to speculate too much on that. As mentioned already, I think our thoughts and prayers now need to be with the survivors, the family members of the 5 souls that were on the Titan. Certainly, there's risk involved in these operations, whether it's the ocean floor, climbing Mount Everest, going to outer space. We certainly hope that we keep those risks managed as well as we effectively can. But at the same time, we hope that we don't lose our, impetus to explore in the future in all different domains and to manage that risk successfully.
Yes, I believe that there's a saying that that the depths of the ocean are as much a foreign land as any other planet, given how very little we really know about this vast unexplored area. And certainly part of the human process is exploration, even though a lot of us are unwilling to take on those risks. As we're still trying to understand what happened, I don't know if you had the opportunity to hear from the Coast Guard. Is there anything that stands out to you from that press conference, particularly about what an implosion would have meant, if there was any way to have better tested the equipment beforehand to make sure that it was properly sealed and that the vessel was able to withstand that tremendous pressure?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to speculate on that at all. I think those lessons will be forthcoming. I think there'll be, as I said earlier, some forensic analysis and hopefully understanding how that had happened. And one more time, I'd like to commend the Coast Guard for the terrific work that they have done throughout all phases of this search and recovery operation. And the way that they've handled it, both from an operational standpoint and putting together this international and interagency team, and also the way that they've handled the events today, which, as I said, are emblematic of a very good organization.
It's absolutely remarkable to see the amount of efforts that went not just from the U.S. Coast Guard, but from the Canadian Coast Guard, from
international efforts,
international
really.
Community, from French and UK, and also private ships and other vessels that came in to try and help, to try and rescue these 5 passengers who now are confirmed dead. Thank you so much for your insight and your
we've appreciated having you with us every step of the way. Retired Navy Vice Admiral Robert Murrett, thank you.
Best wishes.